All right. Hello, everybody. This is season 1, episode 2, Understanding Colorado Through Draw and Recent Changes. We got Nick and Charles here, Harness Adrenaline crew, talking a little bit about the new changes and all the new information regarding the Colorado Draw. How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Just pumped up for this, and I think that this is something that I haven't found. And I would have loved to see. So I hope that we can bring that to people.
So, over the last couple months, Colorado's been putting out a lot of information regarding its draw and conversations regarding it. I know Charles has done a lot of research in this over the last couple of years. I've got a lot of my information regarding it, and through Nick, these two gentlemen here know a lot about the Colorado draw and hunting regarding that and how to get proper licensures with them. So, Charles, what's new with the Colorado draw system?
Yes, I mean there's a number of things really. Obviously, Colorado last year had its worst winter kill year in 70 years. Um, but I mean everything. We used to be a 65-35 resident to non-resident state, and now that's changed, and so we're going to get into a lot of this stuff here. And so I'll kind of be breaking it up through different like headlines as we go through.
Nick, have you seen any changes to the Colorado draw system?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Charles touched base on, that winter die-off was really bad, not just for us. I mean, a bunch of other states, but speaking to Colorado in general, I mean, it has changed in a good way of how we look at what is considered conservation and what needs to be done going forward. We talk about it a lot between each other. It's like, we want people to be successful, we want people to get out there, but at some point there needs to be a change because you can't have, at the end of the day, everyone can't be successful. Otherwise, we would lose hunting so fast, especially when it comes to elk hunting. And there's just so many different ways that people could be taking advantage of this change from the OTC tags going away in some units, as well as some of the draw allocation tags. The numbers of tags that they give out for draw units changing continuously. There's a great way to play this game so that way it benefits you and your friends. It's definitely a challenge to learn it, but it's absolutely worth doing. The biggest change I see is, a lot of the units down southwest where I hunt primarily, a lot of them are starting to go to, draw only, or, draw for just the archery first rifle muzzleloader, and then still saying with OTC for second and third season. But even in that, that's going to amount to a lot of change in pressure. Things, OTC units changing to draw hopefully limits the amount of people that get into those areas, gives the elk and deer herds time to recover and get better. And that's shown a lot through even areas like Gunnison. I absolutely love Gunnison Basin, but man, you can't hardly go into that place without seeing orange somewhere. So, it's definitely a long time coming, but I think it has a lot of benefits to it. And again, it's just about understanding the game that we're trying to play and how the draw system works to benefit you for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think overall, for me wise, I not growing up in Colorado here and not really understanding the whole draw system, just because growing up in Montana, we could go to Walmart the day before hunting season opened in October, get my deer and elk tag, and then would hunt for a month during rifle season. So for me, this is going to be an amazing podcast so I can get a better understanding of it. And I hope a lot of other people do as well. So you two know it best. So what will you need to apply here in the state of Colorado?
Well, I think first, you need to know the draw deadlines. You know, what the CPW did this year was kind of pretty cool. They opened it up March 1st for people to start applying. So they've been recommending everybody to submit early to submit early to avoid complications and delays. You know, we always hear about Idaho. You're kind of in the line and then it crashes the system. So if you do it earlier than later, you have less chance of that. Deadline for the main elk, deer, pronghorn, big game. It's going to be April 2nd by 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, with the results coming through May 28th through May 31st. The second draw for Colorado opens up June 20th. And the deadline for that's going to be June 28th at 8 p.m. What's cool about that second draw, guys, youth hunters receive 100% preference in the secondary draw. So I think that's really neat. We always talk about trying to get new people into the art, if you will, and this is just a step towards that Colorado's taken. The results for that secondary draw are going to be on July 8th. So that's how you'd start. In terms of how to apply, it's really simple. Basically just online at cpw.state.co.us, or you can call in, go into your local CPW office, or call in, even for example, Denver's main line number is 303-297-1192. Something that you'll need to apply, though, to get that application process really going is going to be the hunter ed course. It doesn't need to be a Colorado hunter ed course, but it does need to be a hunter ed course, and that hunter ed hunter safety card needs to be on your person unless you're a verified person in Colorado. What's kind of hidden, so this is what I want to attack, guys, really, is I just want to attack everything from how to draw, how to apply, understanding points, understanding the different draw methods we have here in Colorado. And I think something to go along with that is, if you're someone who's curious about hunting and you have a lot of friends who you trust, family who you trust to get you started into hunting, you can actually apply for the apprentice tag, and you can actually go hunting with someone who has hunted in Colorado for the past 5 years, really with no prior hunter safety course. I mean, obviously it'd be best if everyone took their hunter safety prior, but with that apprentice tag, you can kind of just get up and go. So, I mean, I think that's really unique, kind of questionable in terms of the safety, just maybe giving someone a 300 Weatherby off the bat isn't the best idea, but, and taking someone up in the hills with the 243 who is safe with guns, and they're just kind of curious, want to get into the craft. I think that's a great way to get people in. Nick?
So what's day one, Charles, speaking to a new person that really, okay, so they've got hunter safety, they've got that kind of baseline figured out. What is the first step as far as the Colorado draw is concerned? And what should they be looking for as far as, there's so much information in this brochure. It's hard to read everything and actually understand it and comprehend it. So what is like the step one to starting that draw program?
Well, I would say step one is knowing the fees that are going to come along with it. So often, and Colorado is actually pretty generous in that sense compared to a lot of other states. But so often you see, this Idaho tag's $670 or whatever, what have you, and then you start applying. And you're like, I need to buy X tag, X tag, X tag, X tag, and you end up paying $1,000. So I would say knowing those fees. For example, non-resident application fee is $100 plus $10 per every species that you apply for, and a $12.15 habitat stamp one time per year. That's only a one-time $12.15 fee, and that's before you even get into things like the elk tag for an adult, non-resident adult would be $803.39. For a deer tag, it's going to be $481.52. The same with a pronghorn. And so I think
that's speaking to non-residents specifically in that manner as far as those tag prices.
Exactly so. And so for residents, you would have to get a small game or a turkey or qualifying license, right? And then you would face a $8 per species fee, and then a one-time habitat stamp fee again for that $12.15. And then your elk tag would be right around $66.12, and your deer and pronghorn will be $47.91.
Okay, so they got to buy that qualifying license, and that, like you said, there's the fishing as well as a spring turkey license, which a lot of units are OTC. I know there's still some draw turkey tags as well for the spring, but after that, so if they're applying for deer, do they have to pick a unit, or how does that work?
Yes, I mean, in terms of how to draw, that's super important. And first, I would hit on where I get a lot of my information, as well as where you guys can find a lot of extended information outside of this podcast. I tried to hit everything. I think we as a team tried to hit everything important, but still want to keep it under an hour and 15, so we're not, ear meatloafing you guys. The Elk Talk podcast or Hunt Talk podcast, both with Corey and Randy, Corey Jacobson and Randy Newberg. Pursuit with Cliff Gray. Live Wild podcast with Remy Warren. The Western Bow Hunter is a great one. Hunting Fool always has good stuff in their short videos, like 11 minutes. I really recommend that. Go Hunt's amazing, but ultimately, if you're brand new and you're trying to come to Colorado, the first step I would say is after I know how much I'm looking at price wise, I'm going to call the CPW and talk with a wildlife agent for X amount of, hey, and I'm going to pick their brain, and then and then you got to look at how to draw, right? So Nick had mentioned it. There's a couple different points I want to hit on in terms of the how to draw. Youth is I really want to get the youth into hunting. So first, actually, let me give you even the youth qualifying license fees. Youth application fee is $1.46. Resident elk is going to be $18.45. Resident deer is going to be $18.45, and resident pronghorn is going to be $18.45. And so we're really trying to get new hunters, young hunters into the game. Even the non-resident tags guys are $122.91 for all three of those species as well. Something cool about youth tags is that 15% of every female species, deer or in terms of deer or elk, is allocated to the youth first. So we're already giving out a huge chunk to the if maybe you don't hunt but your son or daughter is very interested in it. That's something to know. Okay, hey, let's get them a doe tag. Let's get them a cow tag, and really way better odds than anyone else. But then I'm thinking about what species I want to hunt. Right? I mean that's a big thing. You maybe you're shooting for the moon and you're like, oh well, I heard you don't need any points to draw for desert bighorn, and that's completely different than Rocky Mountain bighorn. And so you need to know really. Colorado has a very structured draw plan, but breaking it down is a lot. This has taken me probably like 4 days and umpteen hours of listening, studying, researching, and as well as the past 25 years of experience that I have with it. So I mean, Colorado runs on a true preference point system. I.e., person with the most points will draw. Right? You could draw one, or you could buy 1 point per year per species. Colorado's a little bit different than like a New Mexico, where Colorado actually considers everyone's first choice prior to moving on to anyone's second choice, which a lot of people don't know that. So Colorado has 4 eligible choices in terms of hunt codes. What's cool about this is that, say that your first choice doesn't get selected, you have 3 other options, so you can truly try to have a plan within a plan. And if one of the other 3, not your first choice, are selected, you actually still get to keep your points if you have any accrued.
So they never expire, is what you're saying.
Until you use them up, correct?
Okay.
Which for a lot of non-residents, to be transparent with the changes that we're seeing, probably going to be sooner than later. I have to imagine.
And there is some stipulation, I believe, Charles, as far as if you don't apply for a certain period of time, then I think you lose them eventually. But I forget what that actual time period is.
Yeah, I think it's a very long time. Like, isn't it like more than 10 years?
They give you quite a while. But
Yeah.
I mean, if someone ends up, for whatever reason is unable to hunt, they do want to be aware that there is still a potential that you lose them. But yeah, it is a longer period of time. They try to make sure that you have the ability to keep those tags or those points for quite a while going forward. And, but speaking to deer, let's just say we're applying for deer, right? That's kind of a quote unquote easier species, maybe more readily available, even as far as draw tags are concerned. When I look at the brochure, I'm seeing, DM 14502R, and then I see DF 14502R. So what is that breakdown of that hunt code?
Yep, for sure. So understanding hunt code. So let's get, I'll start off with an easy one. EF 0220-2R, right? So let's break that down. E is going to be the species, so that's going to be elk. The letter F would be the sex, so male, female, or either will be the only 3 options there. 022 is going to be the game management unit. For example, this specific example is actually for game management unit 22. Let's see, west of or near County Road 5, Peons Creek, northwest of Rifle, Colorado. O2R, I'll just say O. There's 3 options that it can be here as well: E, O, or P. E means early. So I think the only one that applies to is actually an early season cow tag. O means open or public. And then P means private. And then you'll see the 2 was next. That's going to be the season, right? So second rifle, or 2 and R. Second rifle. R is going to be the method to take. If it's archery, it'll be 1A, for example. So that's kind of breaking down a hunt code. If you know a little bit and you're like, hey, I just want to buy points in Colorado, it would be something like for elk EP 99999P. Deer is going to be DP 99999P. So that's just to buy a preference point. But in terms of method to take, I had mentioned that a little bit. In archery, you can only use recurve, traditional, or a compound bow. It needs to have, in terms of archery, it needs to have a minimum of 35-pound pull with a maximum let off of 80%. And our broadheads actually need to be a minimum of 2 cutting edges with the same plane of 7/8 inch. In muzzleloader, you can obviously only use a muzzleloader. Rifle, no optic lenses for muzzleloaders. In rifle, you can actually use a crossbow, a rifle, obviously, or a huge pistol like a 500 S&W, for example. No more than 4 rounds, 1 round in the chamber and 3 in the magazine. I wanted to get back up to after I was talking about the hunt codes in general, and thank you, Nick, for alluding to that, because that actually falls in line with that perfectly. There's two ways that Colorado allocates their licenses, right? We have high demand hunts and the rest. Okay. And I'll tell you guys, not many people know this. It took me till I was about 28 to know this, to be transparent. But high demand hunts, what is that? Okay. It's a hunt code that took a resident more than 6 points to draw. 20% of these tags go to non-residents, so 80% go to residents in this particular in a high demand hunt, right? For the other hunts, it's a hunt that took a resident 6 points or less to draw, basically any other units, and for that there's a 25% non-resident tag allocation. Why is that huge?
I don't know. Why is it huge, Charles?
Because in Colorado in previous years, we've actually been 65 to 35. As I'd mentioned at the start, we've been 65% licenses to residents, 35% to non-residents. Super, 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 super generous. We've been called by multiple people the land of opportunity when it comes to hunting. Now we're 75% to residents and 25% to non-residents. Still a gracious amount, but definitely a huge cut. And I'll tell you guys, while it's only 10%, let's think about this. 10% in Colorado, which has the largest elk herd in the world. That 10% is right around, that's trimming 31 to 3,200 tags. So in comparison, in Utah, the whole state, only 3,200 bull tags in general are sold to non-residents. In Arizona, and this is just for archery, actually, matter of fact, in Arizona, only 2,900 are sold to non-residents. In Wyoming, 5,000 total rifle and bull archery tags are sold. So we cut out 3,100. And that's give or take 31 to 3,300. And that probably also cuts 200 to 300 resident tags. So let's talk about rifle changes, because if you're new to this, if you're getting into hunting and you're taking, people have great knowledge. That's why you guys are listening. And that's where we get knowledge from, as others who've done it before us. In this particular instance, a lot of things have changed this year, to Lane's mention at the beginning. For example, over-the-counter rifle bull elk tags in the second and third season are now only valid in the northwest corner. Let's see, 12, 13, 23, 24 are now only valid on private land. All pronghorn doe tags, which used to almost be candy. I mean, you could go there and get one. All pronghorn doe tags for all methods of take have been closed down in about 40 to 60% of the northwest corners of Colorado.
Mm.
Yeah. That's a pretty large thing, but let's go back to that elk number. 10% is give or take 3,200 tags. We are still beyond generous. Looking at that, I mean, that's crazy that we can cut that out and still, if that's 10%, then we're still giving out, something along the lines of 7,500 tags.
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of opportunity for people
100%.
to hunt.
100%. So that was the main species, right? Elk, deer, and pronghorn. We can also get into the moose, goat, and Rocky Mountain sheep. Something that you must know is that you got to have 3 preference points to even be considered for the draw. It's a weighted point allocation, right? And so this means that until you have, after year 4, that's when you can truly start purchasing a weighted point, which gives you a statistical advantage.
Okay.
Only 10% of these tags, in fact, are allocated non-residents.
Yeah, so those are definitely some what they consider once in a lifetime tags.
I mean, yeah, especially when you talk about non-residents. I think that if you're going for, let's say we're going for a cow moose and we're residents, we can easily achieve that. I'd say once every 4 to 6 years, getting that tag.
Yeah.
But if you're a non-resident, yeah, I mean, if you're a non-resident, you probably wouldn't want a cow tag anyway. Waiting that long. Stay on the point of all these species. Number one, let's say that you're hunting with a group. You're getting into this, right? And you're hunting with a group, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, Colorado has group applications. A group application option." Do not do it for moose, goat, or Rocky Mountain sheep. There's zero advantage. If anything, it's worse. I mean, there's times when there's 3 tags left, and maybe there's 3 in your group, but because you're in a group, process will overlook you. So I wouldn't recommend applying for those 3 species in a group. If you're talking, on the other hand, if you're talking pronghorn deer or elk, it's great to apply for a group as long as you understand group applications. So let's dive into that a little bit, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, that works.
Nick, do you have any questions about group applications on this first?
Nope, I don't. I definitely want to touch base more on, as far as reading the hunt codes and how that ties into the unit specifically. I know you touched base on that as far as what the hunt code means, the breakdown of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can touch base on that again here in a little bit.
Okay, cool. So if let's say that Nick, Lane, and I are applying in a group for any hunt, elk, deer, pronghorn. Let's say that Lane has 4 preference points, Nick has 6, and I have 0. We as a group have none. So Colorado takes the lowest amount of points in the groups and adds that to the whole group. So know that if you're like, oh man, it's a great idea, because your odds statistically, if you do have a certain amount of points within each person, are higher to draw for those particular deer, elk, and pronghorn. But no, oh man, Charles has 0. I don't want to draw with him. To be transparent, and so that's something that I've actually learned the hard way, probably 6-7 years ago. You'll see in the brochure, if you're looking, you'll see all these list A tags, list B tags, and list C tags. Nick, do you want to hit more on the hunt code stuff, or do you want to hit this first?
No, let's do a little bit more on the hunt code, right? So again, using just Unit 145, which is way down in the southeast corner of Colorado. Truly, I've never even been there before, but I'm just a nobody that doesn't know anything, and I'm just looking at the map and saying, oh, well, that looks like it's got good public land and it's got good access. It's easy to drive around. So I select that hunt code. And so that breakdown, as far as I'm looking at rifle tags, right? So in the brochure on page 31, if you actually look for 145, it has a note. It says you see unit 139. So now that means I get 139 and 145 as far as units to hunt, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great mention, Nick. And Colorado does that a lot. So that means that you can hunt unit 139 and 135. For example, I mean, if you hunt, let's say that your hunt code's EM01202R, then you're going to be able to hunt 12, 13, 231, 12, 13, 211, 23, and 24. And so knowing that and looking at that brochure is a huge thing. If you put the wrong hunt code, Colorado will still be gracious enough to be like, oh, well, they want X tag because it's within that, say that you're trying to hunt 145, but you put the hunt code's 139, but you put 145, you'll still get that. Okay. But it's for you to know you know, when you're out there hunting, maybe you're only hunting 145 and you've seen 16 bucks in 139. You're like, damn, you know, tough stuff. No, that's makes you read that license fully. It'll say, you know, good for units XYZ, you know, 139, 132, and 144. I don't know if that's the exact units they're good for. I'm just saying that. Does that explain?
So, yep. So essentially, that 139, 145, it is a plains, basically a plains tag. Like I said, it's in the southeast portion of Colorado, so there's not a lot of mountains to look at. And so I see October 26th through November 5th, and then it has a buck code, and that's DM 13901R. That is an A license. And then it has a doe tag specific, which is DF 13901R, which is also an A license. And then it also lists a December season with a couple of different breakdowns as far as buck and doe. So I need to be very specific on my hunt code that I'm using. And I want to make sure, like you said, as a person that doesn't potentially know what they're looking at or what they're going for, to give myself the best opportunity, I want to make sure I understand the hunt code that I'm applying for before I even step out in the field.
Yeah, and that's 100%. I mean, that's, you know, the nail on the head again there. It's so important to know, I mean, A, for legality, right? You know, like, oh man, I just shot a deer in 139 and have a tag for only 145. It's an issue.
Okay, I have a question here.
Yeah, of course.
What's up? 1 second here, sorry. How to know how many points you need per unit?
Well, no, because that's going to be kind of hard to really distinguish, right? Because again, even for me, for my elk unit, what even Go Hunt says is I had a 100% chance of drawing, and I still didn't last year, and that also plays into the tag allocation, which we can never truly accurately say what the tag numbers are going to be until CPW puts out that information. So really, the big thing I think we touch on as far as that's concerned is people understanding that just because you apply for a unit and maybe Go Hunt or Hunt Fool or one of those other groups says statistically you may draw because of the influx of hunters, that still may not be 100% accurate. And that's not necessarily on us to relay to people. That's just more of a manner of get yourself in the draw, start accumulating points for a unit that you think you'd like to see. I mean, 76 is a perfect example of that, because 76 used to only be like a 5 or a 7 year unit. Now it's anywhere up to 15 points, you know? So I don't think really telling people, oh, you'll need this many points, because I mean, granted, there's no backlash that can come on us, right? We don't know, but we don't want to just be giving people, in a sense, false information and then them, quote unquote, getting their hopes up and then not drawing, right? So it would just be more of a situation. I think we put it in front of them as far as, okay, pick what unit you want to hunt. Again, break down the hunt codes for the species, understand what the regulations are as far as each hunt code goes. Because again, even with that, there's some, like 211 has boundaries that people aren't going to be able to understand, which we really shouldn't be putting our name on to that. We should just say that's something you need to refer to CPW, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I get you. I was just curious about that, because I've been buying points, but I don't know how it all accumulates, or how, you know, if you got it, besides luck of the draw. That's all I can think about.
Yeah, and you can play odds a little bit, Lane, but to Nick's point, man, when it comes to point creep and everything like that, you could think, I mean, you could be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to apply for this tag, and then it creeps up 1 point and you literally don't get it. I mean, that's literally, to be transparent, I believe that's what happened to Nick last year. I don't even think it was tag allocation. I think it was point creep, because I drew it with 6. But
well, they did cut tags. They went from, I think, 500 in archery season to like 250 last year. Right. So they did cut tags in half, which didn't help me. But yeah, the point creep factor is something that we will never be able to tell people how that's going to affect them going forward.
So think like this, Lane. Like you and I are applying for, let's say we're applying for a tag that statistically and go hunt, and I've talked to CPW, and it's like, hey, 2 points will draw this tag. That's 100%. Okay, all right, cool. Well, last year, Russell Wilson, for a name,
Trademarked.
Right. He applied for that same exact tag, but because he just wanted to waste his points, he had 18 points. Well, so now that point creep is gonna, if nonetheless, average out in the middle. So I mean, that 2 point tag now jumps to give or take 9 points.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
so that's how it all works.
and sometimes it only jumps on 1 or 2. I mean, it depends on how many people are drawing for it with excessive points.
Well, and one thing I want to touch on, and I can do this more at the end, is just really, especially for non-residents, understanding what they're putting in for. Right? There was a guy, that because I was watching 80, 79, 80, and 81, because that's where I was guiding last year. There was a dude out of state that blew 25 years of points on 80 and 81 that had just literally in the last 2 years went draw. When he could have gone to 76. He could have probably gone to 10. I mean, that's an education portion that it's hard to teach everyone about. But at the same time, we don't know the ins and outs of that person's situation. Maybe he was at the end of what he considered his hunting life or career or whatever, and he was just like, I'm going to use these points. Well, there still could have been better options for him instead of burning it on a unit that literally just went OTC, because that screwed up point creep. Now your average goes up even more because you had a non-resident that used 25 points for a unit that takes 2.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
So looking at that hunt code for deer, it says it lists them as A license. So if I wanted to try to get 3 deer tags in a year, I can't apply for AAA, right? I have to apply for A, B, C, or ABB, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you have to break it up a little bit. So list A is simply only 1 license per species per year, but you can also have a list B license with that. So most list A tags, and not all of them, but most, a healthy percentage, are going to involve antlered animals. You had alluded to it a little bit earlier when you said this is going to be kind of a top tier thing. Yeah, this is going to be, a bull elk hunt, sole bull elk hunt, in wherever. And so you can do either 2 list Bs, or you can do 1 list A and a list B. So archery cow, and you do the cow tag for a specific unit. That's a list B tag. So then you can do your either sex archery tag and a unit specific cow tag. So like a area 22 cow tag and that either sex tag, and have essentially 2 archery cow tags at that point, or a bull and a cow. But second or third season rifle tag is now second or third season. It's going to be like an A list bull tag, or an A list buck tag if you're drawn for one of those 2 species.
Okay, and then so that works with the major. Again, that doesn't necessarily pertain to moose, sheep, things like that, but that's pretty much what people would consider like the main go-to species: bear, deer, pronghorn, elk, things of that nature as far as the A, B, and C license go.
Correct. The only thing we didn't cover really is the list C, which is mostly going to be private or very, very little public access. But one thing cool about the list C licenses, okay, is that there's no limit on those. So if you're able to get some, you can get a lot.
Okay.
Yep. So if you have some buddies who have some private land in a list C area for a list C species, and they're like, hey, we don't want them here because we're growing daisies or whatever. Hey, first of all, let me know. You can hit me up on Instagram or however you need to, and I'll come there with you.
Awesome.
You know?
And so, just for reference for people listening, on page 3 of the 2024 Colorado Big Game brochure, on the top right hand side of page 3, shows list A, B, and C and how that is actually broken down. And it actually does say you can get 1 of list A, 2 of list B or C. So, as Charles mentioned, there's an ability to stack your pocket with tags essentially, but obviously be aware and C's are C list licenses are obviously not necessarily the cream of the crop, and it's going to be some difficult hunting for you. Not saying it's impossible. Even with the Plains elk tag is always a C license, and even if you just want a good excuse to get out in the woods, it's a great way to still take part in conservation, do our part as good stewards of the land, and be involved in the outdoors, even when some of the other big game seasons are ending.
Yeah, and so on that note, Charles knows this from last year with me putting in for, I think it was a C list tag for deer, and make sure you guys know the unit and the locations in that unit, and you have all the applicable stamps and
And that there's
approvals
legal
permit.
access to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely important. And, I love Onyx and, I've been using Scout to hunt a little bit more, but even them, there's so many road changes and seasonal closures and stuff like that. I know it's hard for them all to keep up with it. So you got to do your own research. When in doubt, get in touch with your local game wardens, your fishing game officers, whoever. I mean, even just calling a local field office to make sure that you're in the right place and know where you're at 100% of the time. But kind of moving forward, Charles. So, all right. So I'm the new guy. I've put in for my qualifying license. I went ahead and did a turkey tag for the spring. I've got my buck tag selected, my unit selected, as far as doe or buck. And then I've got an A, B, and a C listed out on the website right now in Colorado Parks and Wildlife page. What is the final process besides payment? Is there anything else that I need to specifically start thinking about looking at this brochure?
Yes. So I mean, you said you got your tag already, or you put in for it?
I've got it in right now. I'm ready to pay.
Okay. So that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. Something to think about though is it's always good to have a plan B, right? And so that's where I think the leftover license list would really come into play. Knowing that this is one of the biggest things that even people who have hunted Colorado their whole life don't take a deep dive into oftentimes. And it's really, really awesome to be transparent. So these could be premium hunts where the hunt codes just didn't have enough hunters that applied. Between the combination of resident tags and non-resident tags that are left over are available for first come first serve. So still, even before your over the counter tags, you have an option to get a really quality hunt. As long as you're first in line, right? Have a couple backup locations because sometimes those leftover licenses, there's only 1 or 2 tags left, to be transparent. But the date for that leftover license list, they become available August 6th at 9 a.m. So August 5th, I would be checking that list up and down. I would want to know, hey, I didn't, let's say that you as the new hunter, you put in for your tag and you didn't get a tag. They sent you, hey, tough, you get a preference point, whatever. And then you were on a huge vacation in the summer. You missed the second draw as well. Now we're at the leftover license list. August 5th, I'm looking at that list over. I'm knowing that list. And then August 6th at 9 a.m., probably at 8:30, I'm in line at a CPW office. You can do the licenses online. You can do it call in also. But me, if you're going against me, I'm going to be at the desk at 56th and Broadway office at 8:30 in the morning. So I'm going to get that tag before you're able to type it in or whatever it is, because I'm at the office. So think about that. The leftover license list is going to get updated as the year and season progresses. For example, for people who turn in their tags, maybe someone got a promotion and they can't go to the season that they originally wanted to go that allotted time, right? So what's unique about that leftover license process is if a hunter doesn't draw one of their first 4 choices on the first draw on April 2nd, they actually have an option you can choose an option. And this is the option that I always choose because it's so selective. And this is something that not many people know. If you choose for the CPW to send a leftover tag, if you don't get one of your 4 choices, then you'll be one of the first people contacted by the CPW with the leftover list before anyone has, before they come available to anybody on August 6th. Very few people utilize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Contacted for these leftover hunts, and they're damn good hunts, man. I had a guy, my buddy Tyree, he killed a huge 7x7 on a leftover tag this past year. There's only one left there's only one left, and I think it was actually a reissue, to be honest. And for a place that takes 6 points usually, and he went in there and got a huge 7x7 bull.
nice.
The reissuing of those began the reissuing list. I mean, so the people who have just turned in their tags, that list itself becomes available the 13th, even though you can start applying for the reissued tags on when you buy your leftover. So if you're surrendering tags and you're one of those people, let's say that Nick had everything ready to go, and then he got an offer to hunt muskox in Manitoba. He's probably going to take that. And so he can actually surrender his primary draw license until June 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If it was a secondary draw license that he had, he could surrender that until July 10th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Then those become reissued tags that Lane or myself could get.
Okay.
Nick, does that kind of fill in what you were asking?
Yep. And again, I'm just trying to ask like generic questions that, I think people would want to know. 99% of this is touch base pretty well, but no matter what, it's still confusing to people. I'm just trying to come in.
That's a lot of
jargon. The biggest, I don't really know how much more. I mean, what do you have left as far as notes go to touch on for the draw?
Transparency. I have one note left, and it says, call into your local office.
I like it.
Or if you're out of state, call local CPW office here in Colorado and get familiar, even past what I say, what any of the other people say. This is true legal information that these people are going to give you, and it's up to date is the main thing. So please utilize that. Continue to hunt Colorado. We love having new people into the craft, and we love having new people from different places hunting. So just don't give up just because it seems like it's getting a little bit more difficult, even before the 5-year plan. Where Colorado's on a 5-year, usually a 5-year structure. This year and last year were kind of the exceptions of that due to that winter kill that we talked about at the start. But don't give up on it. Still has the largest elk herd in the world. Still has the largest mule deer population in the world. Please continue to hunt Colorado. Please continue to ask questions. DM us on Instagram, email us, harness-adrenaline@gmail.com. Whatever you guys feel you need to do. Maybe, I don't know if you have my number, call me. I never mind talking about this stuff. So just ask questions. That's the main thing. Don't feel overwhelmed. That's the word.
Hey, Charles
Yeah.
said it. Call him 720. No, I'm just kidding.
Please.
Basically, the last thing that I would touch on is just simply that you have to do, and this is an understatement, but you have to do research. There's so much more that goes into preparation for a hunt, and it can be overwhelming. I know so many people I talked to, so many new hunters, all the guys that I took out guiding last year, it was like they felt like even by the time they got to the mountain, they were still underprepared. So when you think you've figured it out all the way, do more research. There's always something new to learn. Study statistics like crazy. I'm constantly refreshing years previous statistics all the way back to whatever they have listed, mainly just on the CPW website, which again, all the information we've been talking about is on the CPW website. It's in the brochures on multiple pages. Do your diligence, do your research. And once you have a baseline of how this system works, you can start tailoring it more to how you feel you want to hunt. I'll use my hunts as an example. I specifically try to focus on one species a year, mainly because that's how my draw has worked out point wise, but also because then I feel like I have the best ability to go into an area and focus directly on one animal that I'm looking for, one target animal. And the last 3 years that I've done that, I've been successful taking that big game animal that I focused on. It started with my elk, then it was my deer, and then it was my bear. And this year could end up kind of different for me, the way my points are stacked up. I have a really good chance to get into some some good hunts with multiple tags in my pocket for archery season. And even just looking at what I picked to draw between my qualifying license, which was my turkey tag, I put in for moose, goat, sheep, bear, pronghorn, deer, and elk. And my total as a resident with everything, all the fees included, the habitat stamp, everything is 103.91. Of course, I went ahead and did a little bit of a donation because I love our parks and wildlife. As far as the ability to get out. And I believe that that's helping to keep those available to all of us as public land. So yeah, that's not a lot when you truly talk about it. Now, obviously that is just the application fees. That is not the tag itself. So when you do draw those tags, you need to be ready to fork them up. Otherwise someone's going to scoop in and get it. But truly, like I said, Colorado, and Charles said this, and we tell each other all the time, Colorado still, in my opinion, is not being hunted the way it could be. It's partly a good thing because it gives some of us a little bit better traction trying to get in. But there are methods to use. Be very methodical as you pick units, as you pick what tags you're going for, and just truly do as much research as possible. It'll never be enough. You'll always feel like you can learn something more, and then you'll just feel that much better the next year going out there.
110%. And also Nick had said something. Make sure you have that money in your account if you can. But again, Colorado is the land of opportunity. We try to get everyone hunting. Colorado actually has this thing where the CPW will send you an update with the exclamation points on it, the red exclamation points that say like urgent, urgent, urgent. If you got that tag, and I think it's like till June 8th that you have, not that you should, please have the money available. But if you times are tough for everybody. So Colorado will even allow you to be like, okay, just make sure you check your email. If you see that urgent thing in there, pay that so you can get your tag. That's
Sweet.
Something a lot of people don't know either.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But that's all. I mean, what else do you guys have?
I don't really think I have anything else at the moment. I'm sure I'll think of stuff later, but we can always add that into another podcast down the road.
Yeah, it's a deep dive. I mean, Nick had said, jump in and learn. The amount of educational rabbit holes that you can have that I've found these past like 4 to 6 days alone outside of the knowledge that I already had is insane. I mean, you end up listening to 3, 4, 10 hours total worth of podcasts. You end up calling friends who are CPW officers and like, man, is this really? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I never knew that. So it's okay to ask, man. That's we've all been, if you're getting started where you are. So please feel free to ask, and someone will be there to help you. Hopefully it's the CPW. If not, then use us as a backboard. But credibility wise, go to the CPW, please, because I don't want to be I don't want to be the one to blame.
Nope. Absolutely. When in doubt, call CPW, Fish and Game Officer, call your field office, whatever. They're there to be a resource for all of us. We got to start utilizing them as much as possible.
100%. So, and also get involved, damn it. If you're going to hunt Colorado, but if you're going to hunt Colorado, get damn involved, okay? We have some crazy stuff going on, some crazy bills going on. Pay attention to them and see what you can do to take action with the CRWM or HAL as well.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's all I have.
I think tonight was very educational and very informative to help out all people, including myself. A lot of the stuff you guys talked about, I was jotting down notes as you guys were talking, because I'm like, oh, this is great information, so that I know going forward how to apply and how to help ensure that I'm doing it correctly, number one, and number two, making sure that if I'm talking to people about it, I know what I'm talking about, because before tonight, I knew very little about it, and now tonight I have some pretty good information going forward. So thank you both.
Of course, that's what it's for, man.
Absolutely. And don't forget, anyone that has questions, you can reach out to the Harness Adrenaline page. You can reach out to the guys individually. We will do our best to answer questions for you, or at least lead you in the right direction.
And just for you guys, Lane and Nick, and I have all these notes from this. So if you guys do reach out and you're like, man, it was, you're just giving me verbal diarrhea and I don't understand it, feel free to reach out and I can send you this as well.
Awesome.
And as always, you can, like Nick said, check us out at Harness Adrenaline on Instagram at Harness Adrenaline. Check us out on Facebook at Harness Adrenaline, as well as www.harnessadrenaline.com. And you can always reach out and send questions through our contact page on our website.
One more thing. Get after it.
All right. Have a great time and a great rest of your week, and we look forward to talking with y'all next week.
Have a good one.